We are the One Story Podcast. We believe in the power of a story. Everyone has a story, and that story is meaningful. Your story can make a difference. Your story can inspire others. Your story is important. At the same time, ultimately, everyone's story is a part of one story, the big God story.
It's not what you said. You're not who you said you were. When are you alone? When will you come back home?
And we're back with the One Story Podcast. This is episode 17. My name is Drew, and I'm with Isaac.
I'm sorry. I just opened my mouth and I stopped you.
We're here together again, another episode. We're excited to be here. And well, with that in mind, go check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Might as well plug that now. One Story Podcast on both. And let us know, like it, follow it, let us know who you are, reach out to us, and start a little One Story community that we get going.
Yeah, today's a special day. Another special day. Not as special day as when I had my podcast, but
Right. This is a little less than.
But no, today we're gonna have interview Drew Villasenor.
Uh-oh.
So he can tell us all the deep dark secrets. No, I'm excited because I got a lot of good feedback from when I did my episode.
Mm-hmm.
It was very touching and very encouraging for some of the things that people were telling me. And I mean, I had to question what I had talked about because people were like, "I love you, bro." Like,
it's gonna be okay, man.
I was like, "Didn't you listen to the story? I got Jesus." No, but so I'm just and I'm pumped because I feel like from this point forward, by you giving your testimony and telling your story,
Mm-hmm.
that we'll be able to kind of just enter into a new chapter of One Story, because
Mm-hmm.
I was reading, we had read together James 5:16, and it was just kind of saying, confess your sins. And not that telling your stories in that same context, but at least it's just saying us now. We've told you who we are. We've told you where we fall short.
Yeah.
And now from this point forward, we can be completely, you know who we are. We're being completely honest about our shortcomings and in that kind of just push forward and see what else God has for us and for One Story.
Yeah, and to encourage others to want to come on the show and share their story. I don't know if you're out there and you're feeling like, weren't we talking about maybe sharing a story might sound like you just want to put yourself out there, or like
seem narcissistic.
Yeah, just want to.
But it's not like that at all. No, it's not about you.
It's pointing people to God and what He's done in your life.
It's about God, for sure. It's about Jesus and the work that He's done. And that's what the show's all about. We're just trying to testify what God's done, what God does in our lives.
And it's a struggle, too. I mean, like, even listening to a lot of the stories, Isaac's story, it's not that we have it all figured out at this point. And there's still a continual struggle. While we're living in this world, the flesh is going to come out, but we have the power of the Spirit, which is more powerful than, what does it say? He who's in us is stronger than he who's in the world, talking about the evil one. But having Christ in us and having the Spirit in us, we have strength to overcome it. Mm-hmm. But we still are, our mankind, that
we're still living in this world.
Right. And so,
and if we're not constantly being in the Word and constantly just leaning on Jesus, that we can be consumed easily. I mean, even, and I think it's dangerous when you feel like you got it all together.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you feel like, oh, I got God, and I'm doing it,
yeah.
and that's when you're probably most vulnerable. Because
you want to leave a door open. You always need to be on your guard.
So, with that, I just want to thank everybody for listening again, and let's hear about who Drew really is.
Well, it started on a rainy night 33 years ago.
Why was it rainy?
Well, I don't know. I'm just making it up. So, yeah, I was grew up, good childhood, was born into the church, pretty much as a baby, parents were in church. My dad was an associate pastor, which we've kind of talked about.
When you were born, he was an associate pastor?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know all the timelines. I didn't do some hard fact checking, so hopefully you give me grace on all this.
You didn't do any notes, so how would you know?
Yeah, Isaac's mad that I didn't write down my outline and stuff. We ask other people to do.
We ask all our guests to prep, and Drew's like,
I'm just going to wing it, guys, okay?
He was quoting Carrie Underwood.
What is that?
Jesus, take the wheel.
Exactly. So, good childhood. I'm the middle child. I have an older brother and a younger sister.
Hashtag middle child problems.
So it makes a lot of sense. There's definitely the need for attention, and I figured out ways to get it. I've always been blessed with being smart. Like things came easy to me in school, that kind of thing. So I excelled in that way, so I can get. And I'm not saying so I could. It's just how it happened. I got my attention that way.
By excelling in school, like by doing good in school.
Yeah, and then then you get some recognition from your parents and that kind of thing.
At least be like, Justin, why is your little brother smarter than you?
No, he was good in school too. So was Caitlin. We were all pretty blessed in that way. And my dad used to always joke that didn't get it from him because he doesn't even know how to spell his own name, that kind of thing.
Listen,
So
is that why you have a 4-letter name, Drew?
Keep it simple. Yeah. So with that, and then also having the church background, or we were in the church, like God was like a real thing.
Your earliest memories were in the church.
Yeah, just little kid. I don't know what my first memory is, but I was something probably definitely around church time or something like that. Parents were heavily involved because obviously my dad was the associate pastor. And I think I mentioned
talked about this before. What church were you guys at that time?
Calvary La Mirada.
Okay.
Met over there by the where I don't think it's that anymore, but the Whittier Christian Junior High.
Mm-hmm.
I think the church started out at the La Mirada Mall or something like that, but that was, I think, before my time.
La Mirada had a mall?
There used to be a mall right there at the center. Yeah.
Tore that sucker right down.
You gotta know the history
Not necessary.
of LM, man. So, yeah, early memories of that and just being, that was like a part of the home, Bible readings and as I got older, lessons from my dad and mom of like learning about the Bible, but then also application into life, like life lessons as you went along, and how it pertains to.
And this was forever. Like
that was just a part of it.
The way they raised you.
Yeah. And I think I mentioned in last episode, or Tom and Rachel's episodes, like I got saved when I was like 5 years old.
Yeah.
I remember like walking up to the kindergarten Sunday school, and my dad kind of like laying it down or like what it was, and then wanted to pray the prayer, and did at that age. And but knowing, and like I said, like within the mind of a child, but I knew, like we were sinners, we needed a savior, and Jesus was him. And
so at that point, was God just working in your heart at that time, and you just really felt like the call?
I mean, yeah, no. Like it was just a part. Like it's just who I was.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was a Christian, and then so flipped that. I mean, we went to public school, kind of thing, all our whole life, but like in elementary school, I remember being pretty vocal about it and like proud to be a Christian. And I mean, looking back at it, I don't know if I did it the right way, but I had, I guess I was pretty well liked. With friends and peers and that kind of thing.
So that started early, huh?
I guess.
Drew never had trouble making friends.
No, I didn't. And I felt like I was, pretty friendly with everyone. One of the things is I do...
Not according to Rich.
Well, that's what I was just going to get at. I do like making people laugh. That was something I enjoyed. Maybe that was the middle child in me. But like I liked making my brother and sisters laugh, and sister laugh, and my parents, and kind of be a little showman kind of thing, and that kind of thing.
Drew used to walk in with like tap shoes and a cane with his top hat.
One time, funny story, I did give a little river dance Do you know what river dance is?
Of course.
And like, I don't know, I had put on like a dress shirt and like opened up my shirt and like put a headband on and like threw water on my, like it looked like I was sweating and like tried to be a little river dancer just to get a laugh.
Oh my God.
It was a little.
If that's not a cry for attention, I don't know what is. That's funny. So what was, you're giving some context to like how your parents raised you. What was the relationship between you and your siblings?
Good.
What was that like?
Good. Yeah. Because
you guys are kind of close in age, right?
Yeah. So my brother's 2 years older. I say good. Like my brother was like my best friend, and
really?
and you have like best friends at school and stuff. But me and him we were pretty tight, And then
shout out to JV.
Yeah, JV, love you, man. But then
he'll never hear that.
Yeah. I don't know if he listens. But so looking back, I mean, I think I was a good kid, overall. But obviously, I was kind of a little.
If I was your dad, I would have been watching a little bit closer.
I was a little jerk sometimes. But so I think there was definitely some jealousy with my sister when she came on the scene. And so
you were jealous of
I think so. And like I would like be mean to her. And like I don't even know where it like stemmed from. Like it had to be like as a little kid, I'm not thinking, why am I being like this? But I remember, plenty of times like my dad having to like talk to me and I was like being mean to her just for no reason. But I think it was because I was just jealous, and then I naturally became like, if we were like playing and stuff like that. Because
she's what, 3
years younger than me.
She's 3 years. Okay.
And then I think just out of necessity, like my brother and her would team up, and then I would be the other person, the odd man out, and then so I don't know, however that played out. But I wasn't always nice to her, like, and I loved her, and I would do anything for her. And then even growing up, like in high school, we did do some things for her, but that she still appreciates. But yeah, so there was that.
I think that's all normal. Like,
it wasn't anything like real bad,
yeah.
But definitely I wasn't nice and like made things hard for her, and she was a little dramatic, and she'll probably tell you, but she would just get one time she wanted to run away and said that she was
because of you.
Because me and my brother, like it wasn't just me, like we were two boys, and like we were kind of a little tough on her, and so she kind of got the brunt end of it. But yeah, like so childhood.
So you guys had a good relationship. You guys were.
Yeah, definitely. And then so the school side of things, like I was talking about, I just look back at it and it's kind of weird how I had like a certain amount of influence, and as a kid you don't really see it or understand it, but like I remember having friends and they knew I was a Christian, and they would like come ask me like, am I a Christian? Like I want to be one,
And what age is this?
Probably, I don't know, 4th, 5th grade,
okay.
That kind of thing. Like, and I was pretty like serious about it, and I didn't know like exactly what to do, but I would just say like, well, I don't know, are you? And like, you got to have a relationship with God, with Jesus. I remember one friend like
you're proselytizing in elementary school.
One friend, this one guy, he was like kind of had a rougher upbringing, like gang lifestyle, like in his parents.
He grew up on the other side of Valley View,
or that kind of thing. I don't know where he grew up.
The one ways.
But he like came, like I remember one morning I was walking to school, he like ran up to me and was like, Drew, I got saved. Like I gave my life to the Lord. Like, and he was talking about this experience he had over the weekend at church or something like that. And I was like, dude, that's awesome, and just so things like that. Like
you must have really been putting it out there, dude. I honestly like, because I'm thinking about like my growing up in elementary school. Throughout school, like Jesus was never a thing, man. Like I never remember hearing anybody talk about God or their religion or anything like that, like ever.
And see, I don't know if it was just from my parents, but like I knew some teachers were Christians, and then I knew
because did they go to the same church?
Maybe it's just like.
That's weird. You must have been putting it out there, though. Like, you must have been really vocal about it, is what I'm trying to say.
Maybe. I remember there was
and bringing it out of people and making people feel comfortable or kind of normalizing it in some way, shape, or form. Yeah,
so, I mean, I did, but I just didn't maybe understand the full, like, importance of it. And again, we're kids, So, but that was that. And I think it was just because I was kind of I just had a confidence. I've always been pretty confident, and so, but I think it was more because I had an identity in Christ, and it wasn't, and maybe it was my own personality too.
No, that's good. Yeah, for sure, that's real. Like when you feel accepted by God, You don't need acceptance from anybody else. You know,
so I wasn't
Doesn't really
embarrassed
matter.
to talk about it at school and that kind of thing. So that was that. And then getting into middle school, things start changing a little bit, and there's kids that come from other schools, and now you're in a middle school and that kind of thing. And so along with, still being confident, I still I think I had I don't want to call it a need, but I like to be liked. You know what I mean? So I wanted to be liked by, everybody, and I got along with a lot of people. And then I started seeing where, you start getting interested in girls, and then you start noticing who maybe the popular girls they like, and then those are kind of, I don't know if you want to call them I would never call myself like a bad boy or, the bad boys and that kind of thing, but, girls are attracted to like the different, cooler kind of guys.
Of course they are.
But not, so I don't know where it stemmed from, but there was a little bit of like me wanting to fit into a certain, like all parts of the different groups or cliques and stuff. And I did, and I got along with people, but then it kind of stemmed into wanted to try different things. And so one of which is like by 7th grade is the first time I tried smoking pot. And that
what led up to that? Just trying to fit in?
I wouldn't call it trying to fit in, because I did fit in, but maybe just wanted to take it to another level. And there was a part of me, like, I wanted to try it. Like, I wanted to see what it was like. And so I smoked, and there was like one time I didn't even get high. And then,
how did that, I just want to know how that came about, because it seems like
I
sought it out.
Sought it out, yeah. I knew some of the guys that weren't really
you
like
had to
my
hook
close
up.
friends. I just knew that they could or they did, And then I think again in 8th grade.
Isn't that crazy to think about? It's 7th grade. You're like
12, 13 years old.
Yeah. Not even 13. You're like,
Yeah.
you're like 11, 12.
I know, it's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
And so, but during this time, like,
how'd you feel because growing up in the church, and like you said, like a couple of years earlier, you're like proclaiming God as your your savior, that's the head of your life. And then you're stepping into something where you knew it was wrong, right?
Yeah, I knew it was wrong. Like, I didn't feel like it was like the worst thing in the world,
Really?
But then this is kind of, I think, where it started the dualism or the struggle I've had of being, like, having the relationship with God, but then wanting to, see what the world has to offer. And the world in the sense of, And
it was smoking weed at that time, was that what that was? Just trying to see what the world had to offer?
Yeah, and just see, I think, look, I'm kind of the kind of person that I want to know for myself, like, not just to take someone
definitely
like
curious, or not want to say curious, but like
if someone says, "Oh, don't do that, it's wrong or it's bad for you," I kind of want to see, okay,
the other side of it.
What does it look like? That kind of thing. So that was, and I don't know, it was weird because I didn't turn into like a bad kid, like I was still, treated people right and got good grades. I got straight A's, and then but had this thing going on the side and still going to church and having like church friends and.
So you kept on smoking at that point?
No, it was like a one-time thing.
Okay.
And then in 8th grade, I think I tried it a couple more times, and then I kind of stopped. So I would stop and like, no, I don't want to do. This is in my own head.
Were you feeling convicted?
Yeah.
When you did it?
Yeah, I think so.
You're feeling guilt?
Yeah. And so then I gotta live this way. Like, I need to be, doing this. But then it started that to where before, when I was more confident in terms of like being able to speak about my faith, that started going away to where then I started keeping it more to myself and not just so open with the people that were around me. So that gets into.
Well, I think what's interesting, because there was no influence. There's no one influenced you to do those things.
No.
Which I think a lot of people's stories is like,
right.
It's just like, for me, there was influence around me. The things that I saw that I started, like how I started smoking in the 4th grade. It was just because I seen people smoked and it looked cool.
Yeah.
So I wanted.
Well, there was some influence if the fact that I wanted to go and do what those guys were doing because they got a certain reaction from the girls. You know what I mean? So there was kind of like that draw to it, but it wasn't like someone, hey, try this or you should do this or whatever, that kind of thing. So through middle school, still kind of well liked and got along with everyone.
And your faith is still strong.
Yeah, because I mean, I still had a belief. Like through my whole life, I've never got to a point where like God's not real.
Yeah.
This isn't real. Like I'm not going to be doing this, or I'm not going to. I don't want to. It was just like there was always a belief there.
Yeah.
Okay. If that makes sense.
But you guys were still involved with church though.
Yeah.
Because you were.
And then at this time,
your dad was a pastor, associate pastor.
By this time, he had stopped probably when we were pretty younger, and then I don't remember when Calvary split up, but then we started going to Downey, Calvary, and then the La Mirada split happened. And then at some point we started going to Morning Star, and I think Morning Star was more when I was in middle school. So by that time we were already going to Morning Star.
Were you in like the youth group at all, or?
Well, you've said that time before, like if you go to church and if you're in a certain age, you're in that group. So it's not like you decide you're going to a youth group.
You just have to.
Well, I mean,
I don't know. I didn't grow up in.
But that's what I'm trying to explain to you.
Now.
Like because
I see it now, but I thought it was like a choice.
Because you mentioned to me like, oh, you're a part of the youth group. Like, well, if you're there and you're that age, you're part of that group.
It's just because I wish I was a part of the youth group. I grew up in a Catholic church. Everybody sat in the same damn pews.
So yeah, like I mean, unless like the parents, have you sit in the main sanctuary, there's childcare. So depending on how big the church is, which now you probably see, like there might be 4th and 5th graders, and 6th and 7th, and 8th, and then high school. So part of the
it was
the
normal
group.
for you, and I always say that because that was something I didn't even know about. I mean, I know about it now, but I do wish I would have been. I thought that maybe because I think going to Catholic church was so boring. And it just would have been kind of cool to just fellowship with other kids, and you're at church together. I don't know.
Yeah.
How was that? Can you shine some light on like what youth group was and how it was for you, and just being at church? Because you're saying that you're saying that you're starting to step into this different world. What was the world at church with like your peers? At church
when we got to because of leaving Calvary, where we had a bunch of church friends. Like
and
going
this is like with guests or like past guests like Chris Gursey you had mentioned, right?
Yeah.
And who else was? Do we have someone else that was with you in that time?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, just Chris.
So then, it was when we went to Downey. We didn't know anybody, so. Where in La Mirada we had like friends that we grew up with in the church, and then so kind of more on your own. And I didn't really make friends with people at church. And then Morning Star, there was another family that we knew back in the La Mirada days that we started going to. It was more, so it was more just hanging out with him, one of my buddies. And he went to Benton and then went to La Mirada. But so it wasn't like
you didn't have like a strong connection with these kids that you were
right, and so they already kind of had their own cliques and their own friends, and we kind of we did our own thing. And then
couldn't impress them, Andrew.
Well, I didn't really try.
Did you not want to?
Well, I don't know, maybe, but I didn't really make any close friends there. We went on like couple retreats, like winter retreats and stuff, and kind of just hung out with the people that we knew, or that me and my brother knew. So then getting into high school, well, during all of this time, played sports, that kind of thing, which has always been a big part of my life. And I think
you grew up playing football.
I started playing soccer and baseball like at
soccer?
5 years old. Yeah, I love soccer.
Really?
If soccer wasn't the same season as football, then I probably would have played both. And it's not in high school, but it is when you're younger.
Were you any good?
Yeah, I was decent. I've always been...
I didn't know that. That's funny.
And that's the thing, too, is like some of my confidence comes from I just always have been... Like I'm always at least good at almost everything. Like I'm competent, to do whatever. Like I might not be the best or the greatest, but...
You can hold your own.
I was pretty good at no matter what it was. School, sports, whatever. Social life, that kind of thing. So, and that was one thing that kind of drove me, that I kind of... bummed that I lost. Like when I was like younger in elementary school, like I wanted to be the best. Like that was my drive, was to like be the best, and no matter what it was, school, sports, whatever. And so like when I got like good grades, like straight A's, like I was proud of that. And like when I was the top of the class or whatever, I was proud of that. And then it got into like middle school, when it then there's the idea of like being cool, and like maybe being smart's not cool, so I would kind of like hide it. not hide it, but just like I wasn't like proud of it, and that wasn't like my drive, like to be the best anymore in school.
You weren't trying as hard as you were,
right?
before.
But I still got straight A's. But there was something that changed to where, like, it was almost like a bad thing that, I was smart or could do everything.
Like,
or like
you said, it wasn't cool,
or like a know-it-all kind of thing, and that kind of thing. So I kind of like suppressed it. And then getting into high school, there's more of the, the things that you deal with in high school, of the friends and cliques and the cool kids, and but it wasn't like I had to try. But we just, you play sports and you have a certain group of friends. At this point, so like 8th grade year was when like I really started getting good at football. Like it took a little while, a couple years to get into.
What position you play?
Well, in 8th grade, I played, let's see, what did I start at? I started at strong safety, but it's almost like a linebacker because there's really not a lot of passing at that age. And then I played fullback, but we ran a wing T offense. And so then I was second string.
Let's get the board up. We get the X's and O's.
So what you're going to do here is wing T, sweep right, or whatever they are.
21 blasts on 3.
So I played fullback, but I think I was a second string fullback, and then I started at tight end just because they needed like a good blocker or someone that could go out on passes if you needed to.
You're the world's smallest tight end.
Right. And then on defense, I played like the whole game.
Yeah.
So then they like second string wise, I played linebacker or filling a spot here, and then our quarterback got hurt, and I became the second string quarterback of like the wing T. And I remember, it's just funny, like because I got this plaque. We went all the way to the championship.
Who'd you play with? Were you on the Wolverines?
That turned into when it was just one team, and it was the Matadors. So like growing up, it was the Wolverines, and then
this is
the
8th
Rebels.
grade? Hold on, this is 8th grade?
At 8th grade is when it changed.
This is La Mirada.
Yeah.
Then why was I on the Bulldogs?
What is that? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It changed. So when we first started in Junior All-American, everyone had their own name.
Yeah.
And there's usually 2 teams per age group or whatever.
Oh, you know why? Because that was 7th grade for me. I was on the Bulldogs in 7th grade, and then
in La Mirada?
8th grade. Yeah,
Oh,
I played.
okay.
That was
I thought you played Whittier.
I did, and because I was going to transition into La Mirada High School. Like that was all laid out for me.
Right.
And in the 8th grade year, there was something where, I don't know, I ended up back at playing for the Redskins. Oh, okay. So I was wondering, I was like, wait, we should have been on the same team. But okay.
Yeah, so 7th grade, it was the Wolverines.
Okay.
And then the Rebels were the other team or whatever. And then the 8th grade, I think there was, at that age group, there was only enough players for one team, so those 2 teams combined, and then Craig was our coach.
Okay.
And I don't know, that was
I should have been on that team.
That was just a really fun year because I felt like I hit my stride at that point, and like I played all those positions. I remember seeing the plaque, and it was like a slash type player because I had all those different positions on there.
That's crazy.
So going into freshman year, I was like really confident in football and like getting better. And
that's where we met.
On
the gridiron,
playing football. And Isaac was intimidated by me because I had bleached hair.
Did you?
At least that's what you told me.
Did I really?
Yeah. I don't know why.
It's a good memory. I was intimidated because you were trying to take my position. You almost did.
So freshman year was bittersweet, and I bring up football just because that was like a big part of like who I was. I loved football,
sure.
And probably stemmed from my dad, because how much he loved it, and then hearing the stories of him and my uncles and stuff, and wanting to be.
Was he like a big part of in that part of your life?
Yeah, he was never my coach in football. He coached when I was in baseball and soccer, but football it wasn't. And then my brother's 2 years older, and he played football his whole life. But it was always, I think there was that sense of like wanting to. Maybe some of the things of like me trying to be the best at school or good at sports was trying to impress my parents and that kind of thing, like that I was good enough, or, a sense of that. But it didn't like weigh on me to where like if I don't know, didn't struck out or didn't do something like I felt bad about it. Like it wasn't anything like that, but I just wanted, that was my drive, like to be good or great at those things.
Well, it sounds like you had a healthy support system.
It was
from your parents.
Yeah, they went to every.
Your dad wasn't like
some other dads,
like Brandon's dad. Just kidding.
Yeah, no, it wasn't like I never felt like the dads that are like just way too much, too hard on nothing's ever good enough.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that at all. So in the freshman year, I was like excited about football and like this high school football. Like I always wanted to be a running back.
Especially probably growing up in La Mirada. If people don't know that are not in our area, La Mirada is like a small town in a big populated area. I mean, it's located in between Orange County, LA County,
right on the edge.
And it's just a small suburban city.
But that put out a great program.
It has a good football sports program. It's
Yeah.
not just football. I mean, even now they have a good basketball program.
So right, yeah. So excited about freshman year football, and because I feel like I always wanted to be a running back, and I played fullback and running back in 8th grade, and then that's what I was trying out for freshman year. And then you ended up starting at fullback.
Walk on, baby. Who's this Mexican coming out of nowhere?
And then I started on defense. We both were playing linebacker.
Oh yeah, we did. We played side by side. You were strong. Were you strong or weak?
I think I was weak side.
Because I was middle.
I think it was weak side backer.
Who was strong side?
I think it might have been Julian.
Oh yeah.
Didn't he start? Yeah.
Shout out to Julian Medina.
Yeah.
I hope you listen, brother.
So
Jesus loves you.
And then on offense, I think again, like I played tight end because they ran plays in with the tight end. So there was like two of us.
You did play tight end.
I didn't want to like play tight end, but it's just funny.
And you played fullback.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the same thing. You're kind of just playing all over the place.
And you know what's funny?
Special
like,
teams and all that.
Like fun little story. Well, from my side in the football thing. Like so, Don Gauthier was the coach. He just recently passed away.
Ready.
Yeah. Ready. Yeah. He just recently passed away and went to his funeral, and it was just cool, like to be there and like hear from some of the coaches and the program and that kind of thing. And he was a great coach, great man.
He was. We went our year. We went undefeated, but that was like the 5th year in a row, something like that.
His record is something like.
And then he went
crazy
like years after that.
Well, years before us too.
No, that's what I'm saying. We were like the 5th year in a row that he went undefeated.
Oh, okay.
And then they carried on for like at least another 2 years. I think they finally lost like when we were like juniors or seniors.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Just saying. Just kind of like, amazing.
So
coach.
so Don, his son was Craig.
Quick screen right.
His son was Craig, who was my 8th grade or junior All-American coach. And so Craig would be there at the practices. And I just remember, I almost brought this up at Richie's episode, but there was one time Richie got hurt. He was the center, right? And our second string center wasn't there for practice. And like Craig's like, well, put Drew in. Like he can play it. Watch. Like that, I swear. And so we start running plays. I've never, and my brother played center too growing up. And then he started playing linebacker. But so I kind of knew I just knew what the positions were, and this kind of goes back to like I know how to do like just can be good at whatever. Sorry if that sounds arrogant.
No, like you were confident. You had confidence. Yeah.
So we started like practicing, and they're just telling me the line coach or Don just saying, okay. They told me to play, but they just said just block this guy to your left or your right, And I start like playing, and I'm just like. Doing good, like sealing blocks and like opening holes and stuff. And I remember Richie's there, just like so pissed off. And Don Gauthier just has the biggest smile on his face. He's like, "God damn it, Villasenor, what can't you do?" That kind of thing. And we were just like laughing about it. And like they're of course giving Richie a hard time, like, "Oh, it looks like we found our new center," that kind of thing. And I'm small, I'm not a center. But just like things like that.
The same to me. Juro's nipping at the heels of my position and playing fullback.
Yeah. So the first game of the season, we're playing Fountain Valley. Excited for the season and all that. First half playing my first string positions, linebacker and defense, and running in plays for tight end. And you're first string fullback. And then, so if you guys know, like usually with La Mirada, you run up the score. Like by halftime, it was already. Like we were winning whatever it was to nothing. Yeah. And so then second string comes in, and then they try to get like all the kids to play because there's like 70 something kids on the team, and they try to as best possible try to get people to play. Yeah. So second half comes around, and I'm playing fullback now, and we have a certain design offense. It's just the power eye kind of just run it up the gut kind of thing. So I get a couple runs and like boom, like hit off like a 10-yard run.
You had some wheels that you had. You know what? You're light on your feet for being thick. Like because you were short and stocky, but you were like you remind me of Jerome Bettis. just on your toes, just kind of like
right. So and I get in, and Jared's or another guy, he was there playing second string tailback, and then I remember this, like I get another run, like a little small one up the gut, and then
21 blast.
Jimmy,
21 dive.
Jimmy Johnson's the quarterback.
Okay.
He was second string quarterback.
Uh-huh.
And then we did a 5-out route, and I kind of blew it and like hit the end a little too hard and kind of held it up, and I went out for because it's supposed to go to the tailback, but Don, because he saw like the first run, like he wanted to give me the ball, and like even Jared and I were like, oh, I don't know. So anyways, I missed that pass because I didn't run the route right, and then the next run, it's a run to me, but it was supposed to go to the tailback, but Don told...
Was it a dive play?
It was a dive play going to the left, and I just saw like an opening to the right, cut it out right, and run it off for like 15 yards, but go to the sideline. And I remember seeing like the sideline, and there was a guy coming my way, and I wanted to like make a cut and like go back in and go back in.
You're going to shake him?
But there was a guy in the back of me and grabbed me, spun me around, and boom, pop, pop.
Would he horse collar you?
It might have been called at this time. I don't know. But dude just pulled me around. My knee popped.
You heard it? You felt it?
I felt it. I knew right away. Done. Like this is well. I just knew like this was bad. Like not good, and like just pissed off. You know, they kind of walked me off to the sideline, and I was done. And ended up going to the hospital. My parents drove me and got X-rays. But at that point, you don't know torn ligaments on X-rays. Mm-hmm. And so the next couple weeks was kind of like rehabbing it. I knew it was like a serious injury, but we didn't know for sure. And like with insurance, like we couldn't do an MRI for another like 2 months or something like that. So we went to like a sports doctor. I missed the second game in Buena Park, and that's when I didn't play Buena Park. I missed that, and I remember you were kind of messing up as a fullback, and I remember Don telling me at halftime.
I do remember it. Yeah.
He was like, you know, if you were in Villasenor, you'd be starting right now. Yeah, like, that kind of thing. And then I'm so more on me, like, damn man, you know, I got it back in there. And then the third game, I ended up playing, and there was a point during the game where like my knee gave out on me. And just like during the game, completely buckled on me, and I like went out. And at that point, I think we had the MRI scheduled a week or so after that, or something like that, and ended up finding out I tore my ACL and then tore my meniscus.
You were done for the whole season.
I was done for the season.
It's crazy.
Then I had my surgery, and I just
how did that feel at that point?
Oh, it was horrible.
Like finding
out
about that,
because I had like so much expectations for playing football, and like I said, like 8th grade, like hitting my stride, and I just felt like really confident in like how whatever my skills, like I thought I was going to do like really well.
And you were starting to make way.
Yeah.
Like in as a freshman, because you were undersized. So usually naturally in football, I think from coach's perspective, they just see who's big and who has wills.
Yeah.
You know, and kind of place people in based on those two factors, and you were kind of you were working your way into
right.
You know,
and I always felt like I was unassuming because of my size. And then once the first like hit days or like when you get pads on, then the coach is like,
I have a story, and I'm waiting till we get to varsity.
Oh, okay,
I have a story.
So anyways, like that was a huge blow to me. It was first like where I had to really face adversity because I had surgery in December because my parents didn't want me to like miss a lot of school. So I had the ACL reconstruction, and I wanted to play the next year. And in hindsight, I probably should have just took one more year off. But I basically rehabbed hard from January to I played a little bit in spring ball. No, maybe not. I think it was just in summer. I think I just played in the summer and like got back within like 7-8 months. And at that time, like that should be like a year's recovery or rehab. But I pushed hard like that. And that's why I bring it up. Like it was something where I really had like everything like usually up to that in that point to my life was things came easy, and this is something where I had to work for it.
And this was like PT, like physical therapy. So like were you doing that like a couple times a week or what?
I think it was twice a week.
Okay, so I actually didn't even know. About all that.
So then, and we, you know, you and I, we became friends, but we weren't like in a tight group at that point.
No.
And then so sophomore year rolls around in JV. That's when I started playing JV, and that's when I'm saying like I should have probably just waited because I remember playing and hearing or feeling a pop in my knee, and
right away.
Like I just came back too soon, and what it was is my meniscus. My ACL has always been fine. They pulled out a hamstring tendon and made my ACL.
Really? Out of your leg?
Yeah.
Really? So you had like a big surgery?
No, the ACL reconstruction. It was like 7-8 hours, or like at that time.
So do you have a scar on your leg?
Yeah.
Where? On your back of your leg?
No, on the front.
Oh, they pull it. Okay. They
go
pull it from the
around
back.
and
Okay,
then-
I got you.
yeah.
I got you.
So yeah, it was a major surgery and something I had to go through. And so at this point, and then I tried to get back to JV year, but it wasn't ever the same. So I just played defense and kind of always had like
You're playing linebacker
had
right?
Yeah, had just a broken wheel basically. And my knee would pop out, and basically what it was the meniscus flipping over and like getting in the way of my joints, and I would have to like pop it back in or flip that.
Did
thing
you tell
back
anybody
over.
about this, or are you
No.
just kind of something you dealt with?
No, yeah, I didn't tell anybody. And then we get into, and I'll just go through football career, and then we can talk a little bit about high school.
Mm-hmm.
But went to senior year is basically when I got hurt again. But I would have these little things where like it would pop back in.
Well, junior year you played.
I played. That's what I'm saying. Like, so I played JV junior.
Didn't you get hurt the junior year again?
No, I got hurt in senior year, and then it was done because I couldn't get it back in, and then had to wait, and basically had another orthoscopic surgery after the season.
So I remember junior year about Drew being unassuming. We were getting it was our first. We had a scrimmage game, and we were scrimmaging each other. It was like A team versus B team type deal, like first string versus second string.
Yeah.
And I was starting fullback already, and hold on, let me get this right. Okay, so Drew is okay. So
I was on second string defense,
you were second string defense, and they had second string offense in there too, because Lepe. Even though Lepe was a stud, I was a starting fullback, and he was playing fullback at that point. So I was just on the sidelines watching, just watching the B teams go at it, and they did like a power play. And Lepe, he's not tall, but he was like 5'10", 5'9".
And he was a stud.
200,
stud
like
linebacker.
a good solid 210 pounds probably. And he was like Ricky Lepe is shout out to Ricky Lepe. He was a legit football player, tough, stocky, strong, everything.
Right.
Tough, like a legit hitter and tough guy when on the gridiron. And anyways, so there was a power play. He was playing fullback. Drew's playing strong side weak side. It might have been weak side linebacker. And it was a play that went right to you. And Lepe, and as a fullback, his job was to block that weak side linebacker. Where I was standing like right behind you, because I don't even think there was a secondary. It was just the
trenches going at it.
And I just saw Lepe. There was, hike, and Lepe comes firing through that hole. And Drew, you didn't even hesitate, bro. You laid your shoulder and your helmet right into him. You stuffed that block, dude. It was freaking
I think I remember
sick.
that.
Dude, it was like I was watching a scene out of the program. I'm not even kidding. I just had I don't know if it was where I was standing, but you freaking stuffed him, dude. Like, you legitimately stuck him.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking,
and then he was all pissed off, and
then
like the offense was all pissed off.
I remember just like I was like, damn, like I was shocked. But like you were saying, because I didn't even know. Like, I knew you were like good athletically, but when you did that, I was like, oh no, Drew's legit. Because I think I would have hesitated seeing Lepe come up that hole like that, and you didn't, dude. You just stepped.
Can't hesitate. Go full bore.
Just kind of to verify that Drew is you're definitely confident in your skills.
Yeah, and I felt that. I mean, even after the injury, I still started. I didn't start junior year, but then I did senior year, and then ended up getting hurt and didn't come back.
Oh, that's
from
right.
that.
You played weak side again. We did. I remember. You know what? Because we were close. Because we started hanging out like sophomore year.
Sophomore into junior year.
Yeah, and so we started to become real close. And I remember, so junior year, whatever happened there. But at senior year, it was finally like you were gonna have you were kind of healed. You were
good, yeah.
And then you got the starting gig. I remember. Do you remember like kind of rejoicing in you being the starting weak side linebacker?
I think so.
And we were like pumped. Like, yeah, we're gonna
because you were both gonna be.
I was middle, and you were
gonna
we're gonna be playing side by side finally. And I remember being pumped, and then what happened? And because you did play, like it was like a game, or was it more?
I think I played. So it was like freshman year. I just only played one game. But you know what happened was I dislocated my finger like 2 weeks before the season, and Goody, remember, couldn't pull it back into place. I had the worst luck, and it was just
the football gods. You just were not looking.
Yeah. So I ended up having to have surgery on it. Because the tendon wrapped around and they couldn't put it into place. And then so I was out for like a couple weeks, and I didn't play again until the third game. and then that was fine. Played the game, and then practice the following week was when I hurt my knee again. So that was it. That was the end of the football career. And I just bring it up because it was a big part of my life and like who I was, and then for that to like be taken away from me was kind of like a hit to my pride or my my ego and sense of who I was. And
in what way did you feel like you just weren't like you just because you physically couldn't do it?
Yeah, maybe because I just never faced my real potential.
You never got to fulfill. You've always like you were saying, like you always knew what you were capable of, and then you were able to show it.
Right.
So you had.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
I think so. So it was kind of a blow. Well, it was. I mean, the first injury was huge and kind of had a pretty bad negative effect on me in terms of like just pissed, because that's something I wanted so bad was to play football and like be good at it. So the other side of high school was just the struggle of I talked about like kind of living, 1 foot in, 1 foot out in terms of the church and my relationship with God, and then also living, partying and that kind of thing.
Because you were still going to church.
I was, yeah. And so it was like, but then at this point I think I felt like I was more just going because I had to. Mm-hmm. But I didn't stop believing, like I said before too. So partying started happening, doing drugs, started smoking pot. Like at this point, then it was like regularly. I think from probably like
this is in freshman year.
No, like because I didn't smoke or anything after 8th grade, and then getting into I think junior year was really where it started. Like
sophomore year, we were.
But I don't know if you remember, but like you were into it, but I wasn't.
I didn't know that.
Because I was...
Dang it. It wasn't me that dragged you in.
No, but I never felt like anybody like I made my own decisions,
Mm-hmm.
It was my thing. But then I think later into sophomore year, maybe it was the summer going into junior year, I don't know. But then it started being like all day, every day kind of thing. And then like trying other substances.
Experimenting.
And by the time I finished high school, I kind of did it all, you know. And just by the grace of God, that didn't get hooked on anything real bad, at that point.
Uh-huh. You know what I'm just thinking about right now? Like with the football team, that was an environment where a lot of people were. It was a party. We were a party team. Like and I think the culture. It was more than just a football team. I think the whole school. Am I mistaken by thinking that? But it seems like La Mirada like La Mirada and La Mirada High School itself. I don't know how it is now. I'm not connected in any way, shape, or form nowadays. But it seemed like there was just a lot of that going on. It might be, and I think we've talked about this before. Where we had said like you were saying that it's like everywhere. Yeah, and that might be a thing. And maybe I don't know. It just seemed like it was a big thing at our school.
I think there was
on our
football
team. It was definitely like a thing.
Yeah, like maybe not everyone into drugs, but like at least drinking and partying and that kind of thing. So I got into that. I wasn't really a heavy drinker in high school, like at all. It was just.
I remember we were talking about trying to drink Coors
Light. Yeah. So I had that going on. So basically, I was just partying every weekend, and like that's what it was about. But I was still doing good in school. Like school started kind of fading off like senior year. I was kind of like over it, but I always had really good grades.
So it never really gave your parents a reason to get on your case.
And then I think I mentioned too, my brother started getting caught with doing stuff, and so that he took a lot of the attention, and I was able to kind of fly under the radar. So everything, looking from the outside in, and even with me, like everything was good. High school. A lot of friends, doing this and that, doing good in school, so there was no problems there. And then going into senior year,
did you ever have any kind of conviction about?
And that maybe there was always like
you always had that
the
conviction.
guilt of like I shouldn't be doing this, I should be living this way, but I want to be doing this and I'm living this way. You know what I mean? So that was the struggle.
It just wasn't. It wasn't enough for you to change or
I guess, or
to follow God.
Right.
Like you knew you should have been.
Right. I knew the way I should be living and the right things to do, but I chose not to. Because
I remember, because you were saying earlier, you were saying how you were, and it kind of faded off, but like in elementary school, you were telling everybody about your faith. And then it kind of get like less and less.
Yeah. And to where I think.
And then I've said a bunch of times, like, I didn't even know that you were a churchgoer.
But it's funny that you say that, because I did invite you a couple times.
During high school? I don't remember.
But I wasn't like vocal, like, hey man, you need to go, you got to check this out. This is so cool. It might have just, I feel like it was just more in passing, like, hey, you want to go this Sunday, or we're going to this. I think I might have invited you to the thing that Richie went to, that retreat. But I don't know.
Remember. I was stoned.
Anyway. Yeah. Not that I was like being a good example anyways. So it would have just been a bad representation.
Maybe, yeah.
So getting to senior year, and the end of senior year was when really like a bomb was dropped. And we find out my dad basically admitted to me and my brother. I mean, he obviously had talked to my mom, but basically my dad cheated on my mom. And I remember, this is towards the latter half of senior year. My brother's already out of high school. He called us over to go talk to him at a close friend's house. And the dad of that friend, he was there and kind of, I don't know, maybe there to mediate the conversation or whatever. So it was the four of us, and my dad kind of just laid it out, what was going on. And he had started this relationship with another woman. He was sorry. He was like, it was a pretty emotional time that he was telling us all this. Just me and my brother. I think he told my sister in another setting, but he was basically saying that, this is what happened, but I'm going to, we're trying to work things out. And I'm
with your mom.
Yeah. And they were going to go to counseling and try to work it out. And so that was kind of how it left. And
did leading up to that conversation, what was it like at home?
Things were good, but I guess looking back, like it started getting a little rocky, I guess. But I was kind of doing my own thing, so I didn't.
You were, we're all hanging out with each other a lot.
Yeah.
Just like you said, partying and just being with your friends, like high school stuff. You just want to be with your friends. You don't want to be at home with your parents.
Right, exactly. So I didn't see it. All of, like their relationship was going downhill.
And I think I've said this, and just me and you in our conversations, I've said that I always remembered your parents, like, it was always like, we'd go to your house and kind of like, hi Lise, hi Raul, and just really, just
get out of there.
Just trying not to draw too much attention to ourselves. But right. I always remember sitting with each other in that den that you guys had watching TV, and he would always like, what, your dad Raul would be like, what are you boys up to? Like, oh, we're just gonna go to like totally lying about where we're gonna go, but like, okay, well, be careful, just like, but it seemed healthy. Like from my perspective, it seemed like,
and even inside, like it was, and and that's why this thing was just a blindside, and like
I totally caught you off guard.
Oh yeah, big time. And I would have never guessed it. Some of the close friends and families through church and stuff, they would have never guessed it. And like it was I don't know. I can't speak for everyone, but I remember like people coming up to me and saying, I would have never thought, sorry.
Would you feel? And like when he said that, like when those words came out of his mouth, like,
well, just betrayal. And
just right away hurt.
Yeah. And then I had to process it. And one of the hardest things was, so continuing on, so he said that and he was going to do that. And then I don't know how long after that he wanted to meet with me and my brother and my sister again. So he was already out of the house. I think he was like staying somewhere else. And I don't remember all the details.
When you guys had that conversation, he was out of the house?
Yeah, I think because he probably told my mom or had, talked with my mom. I don't know if he wasn't around at that point. So he said that he wanted to talk to us again. And I just knew, I didn't go to that dinner, basically. I knew that he was deciding like he's going to just leave and not stay with my mom, not work it out. And so I didn't go to that dinner, and I drove up to the hills in Villasenor where we used to smoke, and I went to the spot, and I started just kind of giving everything to God and just like crying out to him. I was like crying. I was kind of asking for forgiveness for my sins, for the lifestyle I was living, and I was basically recommitting my life to God, and I was going to like live for him. And it wasn't in a sense of like, so you keep my parents together and that, like, I wanted that. I wanted things to work out with them. But it was more for me like, hey, I'm not living right. Like I need to. So I made that commitment up there, and that dinner was what I thought it was going to be, because I found out from my brother and sister, like my dad was basically making the decision, like he's not going to stay with my mom, and he was going to go pursue this relationship with this other woman. And so, it was a huge blow. And growing up, I talked about like always getting lessons from him, and we had a great childhood, and I'm not taking anything away from that. So like the first 17, 16 years of my life were great. And like the lessons I learned, the things I learned from him and my mom, like I'll never, like that doesn't go away, but it made it harder to accept what was happening, because I remember multiple times, like because him and my mom were marriage counselors too, like through the church, like they would counsel young couples. And I remember him telling me countless times, like divorce is never an option. Divorce is never an option. And then now he's doing this and turning a complete 180 on those things that he told us. And this is just, my side of the story. Obviously, in a relationship, it takes two, and, with my mom and him, whatever they were going through and the different struggles, it doesn't justify what he did in any way, shape, or form. But, there's two parts of it. And he has his side and my mom has her side. But it definitely, it tore the family up. And it was hard to deal with. And I think all of us were affected, my sister especially. And again, I can't speak for them exactly, but it was a huge blow, because even in the community, like we were known in the community, my dad was, being a pastor, and, the influence that he had. And it was just this huge shakeup, that was bad, really bad. So at this time, I decided I'm going to, start living for God, and I go and I start witnessing to my friends. And so Dustin was the first one. We were going to go smoke, and
you trick him.
Took a drive, and I just laid out. Basically, I wanted to tell you guys, my close friends, that what had happened before you got out into the community. What had happened with my parents. So I told him what happened, and just told him what was going on with me, and I wanted to live for Christ, and he accepted it big time, what was going on with me, and he wanted to, start living for Jesus. And so we started going to church together.
Really? Where'd you guys start going?
Morning Star.
Okay.
And then I went and I talked to you and Richie.
Yeah,
over at Richie's
I do
house,
remember that.
I
I remember you had said I did witness to you, and I was denying it, but then at a certain point I did remember that night you guys came over.
Well, just me.
And it was weird. It was just you. But it was weird because for some reason we hadn't been talking that much at that point.
I think it's just the stuff that was going on with you, and you were living at Richie's and that kind of thing, and I don't know, whatever was going on. But I sat you and Richie down and kind of told you guys what was going on with my parents, and then what was going on with me, and kind of basically laying out, and you're just like, and it's like, I'd love for you guys to come to church with me. And
what did I say?
Check this out. And you're like, no, that's cool. I'm Catholic. I got my own church. But you didn't go to church, So I was like, okay.
That cracks me up.
And it wasn't one of the things where I got hurt. And then another one of our close friends, I did the same thing with him. And then and this is I think now, we already graduated. Yeah. And then I remember one.
So that happened at the
very end of our senior year.
Very, very end.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, that started going on, and I basically made the choice, I wasn't going to talk to my dad. He was going to do that. I wasn't going to have a relationship. Did
you talk to him after that dinner you missed?
Yeah, I think a couple times after that. And then he made it up his mind what he was going to do. And then the relationship was done after that.
Were you trying to convince him to do otherwise in any way?
I did, but not I wrote a letter to him where I was kind of trying to just let him know what he was doing wasn't right and all of that, but it obviously didn't change anything. And I wanted it to change, but just the way it was. And
then so you decided, I'm just not going to have.
Yeah, if he's going to do that, I'm not going to have a relationship with him at all.
Did you tell him that? Or did you just stop talking? Stop talking?
It was kind of said in the letter a little bit. And then just that was it.
Did he reach out to you?
No. Well, he did, I think, and then several attempts later on or whatever. But during that time, just, what I saw in my mom was huge. And the strength that she had was amazing. And even though I wasn't, well, okay, so let me get back to, I changed my life and I started trying to, but then it just wasn't enough. I didn't have a good enough foundation maybe, or it just got drawn back into the world and the things of it. And
how long did that last? Like as far as like recommitting to God and really trying to walk on that path. Like
I don't remember. I don't remember how long it was. It wasn't that long.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like a couple of years or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I just got back into the same habit. But seeing the foundation that my mom gave us was huge. And I know she was really leaning into God and, going to counseling and that kind of thing. But I saw a strength there that I'd never seen before. And even with my dad, how he raised us, like he was kind of the one that, we all looked up to, and he was the spiritual leader and that kind of thing. But the strength I saw in my mom was something unreal, like that she was able to still maintain through that situation and still be a strength for us, like to kind of glue it together. Because even though, because we could have went crazy, and even though I did, like we still had that foundation at home with my mom. Yeah,
I remember during this time seeing Lise and really not, and thinking too, like, I don't know, she definitely didn't show it. Mm-hmm. If whatever kind of pain or hurt she had, she definitely didn't show it. She's always just very sweet. To this day, she's just a sweet lady. And just always like, hey, what's up, Lise? And she, hi, Isaac, whatever. But, and so just to that, like, yeah, she kept it together.
Yeah.
Because that's devastating. Imagine, her whole life.
Yeah.
Was, because they got together young, right?
Mm-hmm. So they were married almost 18, 19 years or whatever it was.
Man, and just gone,
Yeah.
All the memories and all the, all the moments and just everything, a whole life built and just gone, that's tough.
Divorce is ugly, big time. And especially the way that it happened. Any way that it could have happened, and them splitting is going to be, have some effects definitely with the kids, with everyone around. So it was definitely a really tough point. And from that point, I really so I'm out of high school, going to college, going to junior college, not taking it very seriously and kind of just not caring. I have a job that I started, and I was
which is weird because you had a promising, you were, as far as like your academics,
right? You
could have gone to university easily and done well.
I was accepted to several universities.
Oh, really?
But I think it was just everything that was happening and I don't blame things for why. I could have made my own choice and gone to college, But I decided to do junior college and work and then pay for things because I needed to, and then it just stopped caring about it, and then some of the effect of obviously from the divorce had something to do with that, but I just never got back into school.
So you already said that, like, you kind of made the decision not to go to school because you're already, working and you were just ready to have your life going, and you already started this life without your dad. What was that like, as far as like your parents just being separated? Your dad's totally out of your life. He's out of your mom's life, and you guys are just kind of on your own now. How did that affect you?
Yeah. At the time, I think I just kind of made my own, I was just going to do my own thing. And these are the decisions I'm making. Like you said, I just stopped going to school. I was working. But looking back at it now, and I probably could have saw it then if I took a chance to step back. It had a huge effect, because it broke up the family. You start realizing that, it's never going to be the same again.
That's,
Christmases, holidays. Those, you know what I mean? Just the everyday stuff that now it's fractured and it's going to be different. And the way that it happened wasn't, going to be in a way that everything was going to be cool. You know what I mean? Like the way that he did it. So, during that time, I was saying
especially like you were saying, it wasn't like something that you saw coming. It wasn't like they were fighting all the time.
Yeah,
and then you just like went, and then like, we're getting
better
divorced.
For them.
Well, yeah, like we're getting, they dropped the bombshell, and you're like, well, we kind of expected it,
right?
So it's like, it was just abrupt and in the worst way.
And where other people we've had on the show where things weren't as stable at home, for us, it was like that was always that thing that I could count on, even though I wasn't, living the right way or doing my own thing. There was always that family unit that I could count on if I needed to go back to.
Were you already grieving that part of your lives during, at that time, or is it only hindsight where you grieve it?
I think it's high. I mean, it definitely, there was pain. There was a lot of pain and hurt and the gravity of it, but I chose to self-medicate, to have other distractions, and it wasn't. It's more looking back at it, and I think about kind of what my mom was able to give us. Like my brother, I think, had moved out at the time, or after high school, and he moved back in the house. So it was the three of us and my mom, and helping out, all of us pitching in to help out.
You, Caitlin, Justin.
Yeah,
okay,
and my mom. And so we were able to have that, like I was saying, my mom kind of glued it together and kept us together from it getting too crazy.
Was there ever a time where you, maybe just you and your mom kind of grieved together in any way? Was there ever any conversation where it was kind of just discussing what had happened, what was going on? Not too. There was, and she tried to get stuff out of me, and I kind of held things in and didn't want to. I didn't really process it. And there was even, she was going to a counselor, like a Christian counseling, and it was offered to us and to me, if I wanted to go and see him with her. Was it through a church?
No, it was like a private office or whatever. And it was offered to me to go, and I could go by myself and talk to him, or go with her, or whatever I wanted to do, and I didn't. And I kind of, looking back at it, I wish I did, because it would have been able, it just helps someone else walk you through what's going on, to talk about the feelings that you're having instead of suppressing it all and just trying to move on.
Yeah.
And it was more because my personality, I'm, a real independent person, and kind of the things I've talked about, I can do everything, or can be good at everything, and I thought I can control it.
Well, we had said earlier about you and making your will, you manifesting whatever your will would be. So you probably were thinking I can get through this on my own.
Right.
Deal.
Yeah. Had that attitude to a sense. And so and looking back at it, it definitely, it had a huge effect, and it was a turning point in my life. And from that point on, it wasn't like things just went south, we've talked, this is going into, I was 19, 20, going into my early 20s, to where, there was a lot of fun that was had. At the same time, I was really going off the rails.
First part of Drew Villasenor's story, and just a little cliffhanger, a teaser as we call it in the business. But if you can just listen next week, the Drew Villasenor saga will continue. Again, just thank you for listening. Just share it with a friend, and we'll see you next week. Much love, many blessings.